Welcome to Lunch and Learn Volume 9. Today we're going to be covering purchase ordering and invoicing. So we've had a fantastic opportunity now to run through the software in the previous webinars. If this is your first meeting with us, please do make sure that you jump on the YouTube channel and check out the previous webinars, because there's a lot of good information there to help you get the most out of your software and get set up in a really fast and efficient manner. So what are we really covering today? Purchase orders and invoicing and the automation that Jobman can then produce for your business. Save a lot of double handling. Probably one of the biggest benefits, though, is the reduction in errors and mistakes, and especially when it comes to material ordering, that can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars back into your business. So a really important area of the software. So we're going to cover creating purchase orders and the best way to use the software to achieve that, how to then receive them digitally, which can be done by both the office user management roles and the kiosk, which I think is really important for people to know, and then invoicing jobs and POs, or creating bills and then linking those up to your accounting software. So all very exciting. By the end of today, we certainly hope that you have a really good understanding around the correct and best flow for automation for your purchase ordering. Now, I'm going to stop there for a moment, and I want to mention something that's extremely important as part of a digital transformation in a business when bringing on a platform such as Jobman. Quite often, you have processes that you're very used to in your business. It's how you manage your business. You've been doing it for a long time, and they work. And for whatever reason, they will certainly benefit how you handle things on a day-to-day basis. But quite often when people start this process of digital transformation and bring on an ERP, one of the first things they look for is how to skew their process into a software platform. Now, in a lot of instances, platforms can be very flexible. They can allow you to sort of work how you currently work and then look to improve. In other areas, however, there's really important reasons why the software operates and acts in the way it does. And one of the primary reasons for that is to actually improve automation, reduce wastage and mistakes and inefficiencies, and therefore give you a really good return on investment. So it's important to note when you're following this through today, the reason why the software platform does it in the order in which we recommend is because it brings you the greatest amount of benefit. It's not to say you can't just come into our system and, add some materials and throw out some purchase orders and off you go. But what you'll lose is you'll lose a lot of the links along the way that make the software give you the best return that you're looking for. Important stuff, such as automation of sourcing, job costing, and all those sorts of things. So that's why I feel today's going to be a really good webinar, just to show people the proper process through the software so you can get a really good understanding. If that means tweaking your process internally to use this program, this is one of those areas where it's definitely worth it. We are bringing you the best foot forward here, really. So it's important to note, sometimes a platform is not always going to bend to the way you do it. Sometimes it's better to follow the process, and ultimately that's why most people come to a platform. They're looking to improve their processes. They're looking to increase their profitability, and this is part of that area. So there are a number of ways you'll be able to learn how to create purchase orders today, and obviously we have batch ordering, or we can handle individual ordering to jobs and custom ordering, so that's not a problem. We'll also show you how to receive purchase orders, again, digitally on two fronts, and then how to create invoices and bills. So purchase ordering in Jobman is key to completing the job management process. Obviously, before we start manufacturing anything, we need to obtain the materials in order to manufacture. So whether that comes from inventory, which Jobman has an excellent inventory management system, or whether you're going to source those externally and purchase those materials in, Jobman is designed to handle it on both fronts. It can handle it in a batch methodology. What I mean by that is it can take multiple jobs with key resources from a particular supplier, and you can just place one order with the supplier to save on freight and handling, and put them all together. And then when they come into Jobman, they'll be separated by job, or alternatively, you can simply order job by job if that's the way your manufacturing process typically works. So it can handle it both ways. The biggest benefit, of course, is automation for your business. Purchase ordering is a large area sink. especially from a resource point of view. For a lot of companies, they spend a lot of time making sure the right materials are being ordered for the right jobs. And then, without a system like this, it can become a bit crazy and hectic as to when things are coming in, where they're coming in, where they're allocated to. People are grabbing things they shouldn't be grabbing because they're allocated out. Jobman will really help smooth that process and improve your efficiency. And the return there is very, very straightforward. It's a lot of money back in your pocket. So receiving purchase orders in Jobman is handled digitally. It can be done from the office user management role. So you can come in and receive it. If you prefer to do it from a project management point of view, that can be handled from the office user license, or we have the capability to handle it from the kiosk. So if you prefer your team handles the receival of those goods as they come in the door, as they're the ones most likely to be unpacking the trucks, then it makes a lot of sense that they can go into the kiosk and then receive those goods as well, which is good. We can handle partial receiving, splitting of purchase orders, and everything you'd expect from a good purchase order and management system. The invoicing and billing side to Jobman is designed primarily around saving double handling. Obviously, our job is not to replace your accounting software. We're not a payment platform. We don't report to the ATO. We don't handle your payroll to your staff. So, we're not there to replace Xero or MyOb or QuickBooks. Our job is to make sure that because you're doing your day-to-day work inside our platform, and that would be quoting, that would be creating purchase orders, for example. We want to provide clients with the opportunity then to be able to create things like invoices and purchase order bills, so they can then link up and be sent through to your accounting platform, which can then do its job, which is to send those payments out for receivable from your clients, or to pay those purchase order bills and then keep your tax up to date. So that's its job. Our job is to save you from double handling. And a lot of businesses, when they first start with a platform like this, they tend to do a lot of that work already in the accounting software. You're already creating all the invoices, all the bills. So this is one of the good scale benefits of our platform, is we can save you a fair bit of double handling there. We do have we have a client email service built into our platform, as you've already discovered, with templating and emailing in the CRM and jobs. So you can build professional templates in Jobman, and there is nothing stopping you sending invoicing out to your clients directly. However, it's just worth noting that because we don't handle payment services currently, you're not going to gain any benefit from that. You're still going to have to go into your accounting platform and reconcile those payments somewhere, place those invoices in. So the best use of the software is to create those invoices and bills in Jobman, and then push them up to your accounting and get the best benefit of double handling there, or reduction double handling, I should say. The other benefit of that is, for a lot of companies we deal with, there's a separation between the accounts department and the project management team. It's good for the project management team to be able to see, the holistic value of jobs and how many invoices are out and how many are outstanding, for example. So we want them to see that information. We can see that in Jobman if you choose, but we don't necessarily want to give them access to our accounting platforms. A lot of sensitive company information in there. So this also allows for that separation. We can put the information into Jobman so that we've got an understanding around value and forward planning, but we don't have to give them necessarily access to the accounting side, so profit and loss, BAS, etc. So really good, very easy to use. I'm going to show you today. It's going to be no stress. Now, I know that was a very short run through on the slides there, and that's because I actually want to spend a bit of time in the software today. I think this is a good one just to show, so everyone gets a really good feel and understanding for how it operates in the platform. So we're going to spend a bit of time actually looking at the program. So we're back in our Lunch and Learn Jobman, and we're going to start today with the purchase order management flow. So purchase ordering obviously is a very big part of any job. One of the things that we mentioned in one of the previous webinars, one of the greatest benefits of Jobman is that you can in fact start to gain some really good automation through the system from even an initial key point. And that's part of the reason, again, why the system is set up as it is set up. So if I go back into my leads, and this is one of the leads we previously produced for Abby and Wells, and we had our quote attached to this lead, and inside that quote, there's materials, there's labor, there's time management. By pushing this into a job lot of that information will come across. So the first thing to note here is that one of the first primary gains of automation benefit you can pick up from our software platform is if in your business you typically quote material and labor services directly, so you have SKUs attached to your materials. For example, we'll use our cabinets as an example. If you typically quote and you say, I need 10 of these exact boards, and it's going to take this long to manufacture, it's going to take this long to install, for example, and there'll be some electrical contract work. By putting those exact amounts and those exact SKUs and operations in our quote, when this pushes forward into a job, those materials precisely with their SKUs and those operation times will pull in. So that's the first layer of reducing double handling. It's a big one. That really helps a lot of companies straight off the bat go, well, we don't need to worry about mistakes being made. We've quoted precisely on the material, and now we're going to push that material through for purchase ordering. It's very easy. They can run through the material list and off they go. For a lot of companies, however, they utilize our quoting service on a schedule basis. So that is, I'll just bring the quote back up just so we've got a quick refresher here. That is to say they put products into the quote, and those products are based on schedules. So rather than tell Jobman precisely at the quoting level that it's going to be this exact board, we might tell Jobman, for example, that it's going to be 16 mil MDF in our basic range. When it comes to purchase ordering, obviously we need to now tell the system exactly which board we're going to order. So one of the good things about Jobman is all of that information, the quote will still pull through, but it pulls through into what we call token placeholders. So that's the first step. I wanted to mention this so that people don't think they have to spend hours and hours now in job management resource. One of the benefits of the system is it is designed to produce a lot of automation there. And it can provide a mixture of both. So if you have some scheduled pricing, for example, in the steel industry, sheet pricing goes up and down every day based on London Exchange. So you'd never put the exact sheet rates into Jobman. You'd always use a schedule. You say 3 mil, modded steel at sheet. We cost price it out. It costs about $15. $180. We sell it for about $250. So when we pull it into the quote, that's fine. We need 5 sheets for this job. No problems. There we go. $1,500. But when it pulls into the job, obviously it's at the job stage where we want to change that material to the exact SKU we're going to buy from the correct supplier. So this is good. Now, what I've actually gone ahead and done to be able to show you some of these sides is inside this job, I've started the process so that you can get a bit of a feel for where everything will pull together. And the first thing I've done in the lead upon receiving the accepted quote is I've come in and I've actually started creating my invoices. So I've created my first invoice here. We'll have a look at this one. And this is 20%. This is a deposit invoice. So this is 20% of the total job value. And here we go. We've got the advantage of using items now in the system is we can pull these invoices through and we can start actually costing based on those items. So what I mean by that is if out of these items, for example, you wanted to do 10% of the kitchen, 30% of the bathroom, and 25% of the laundry, for example, you could have these numbers be different and Jobman will handle that. Now, the beauty of our invoicing system at this level is Jobman will remember these details. So because everything's linked, it's nice and easy for me to go back and forward. I can come back in here and I can look at my resources and I can say, okay, well, first off the bat, I've got my first invoice there. It's currently sitting in what we call a draft status. So the draft status means it hasn't yet been submitted to our accounting software. It's nice and safe. We're not impacting P&L or BAS or GST or sales tax or anything like that because it's not yet submitted, but it's sitting there ready to go. So I can submit this invoice and it will now go up to our accounting platform, whether it be Xero or Mile or QuickBooks Online. And then that can be sent out to the client. Now, the purpose of that submitting process is it will now link the invoice in Jobman to your accounting platform. So that now creates a link. The second thing it will do by creating that digital link is the accounting platform will come in and it will override what's called our token placeholder invoice number here with your actual invoice number, because your accounting platform is responsible for your invoices. So it will come back in and this is what it will do. It will change that number for you. So now they're linked and ready to go. And when you authorize and submit that invoice to the client, when they pay and it comes back in, because the link is still there digitally, your accounting platform will automatically update Jobman to say that's been paid. So that's how we save a lot of double handling. You can set up multiple invoices here ready to go. So we'll create another partial invoice because we've already set out the first. So we'll call this the updated payment second schedule. You can call this whatever makes you happy for your referencing. And you'll see here that if I add that quote system back in, you can already knows that I've already invoiced 20%. So if I come back in here and I ask for another 20%, it will create the second invoice for the next 20%. And what I can do is I can go through this process. And if you wanted to, as a process for your company, you could come in here now and build all 4 invoices or 5 invoices or however you prefer to set them up for your company. So if your standard payment schedule is a 25% deposit, then 25% when we hit key milestone 1, 25% when we hit key milestone 2, and then 25% on completion. This is how you would do it. You could build those 4 invoices. They're sitting here. As I said, we do have templating, so there is the ability to send this out to your clients if you want. We don't recommend it. It's definitely what your accounting software is there, but you have the power and potential. Or if you're a company that likes to send what's called a pro forma, so you send the invoice out, you can do that from Jobman without disrupting or impacting your accounting platform. So now when I go back into this lead, I can now see where all the invoices are up to for this job we're about to do. I can see there's a couple of invoices being produced. I can see the totals, where they're coming through, how much is outstanding. So if these were paid, I could turn on the balance amounts in here, which is good. So amount due, and then the software will pick those up as the payments come through. So a lot of visibility, a lot of automation, a lot of benefit. I could then go through at any point and update these invoices from draft to submitted and push them out to my accounting software, but I don't have to do them all at once. I can do them at key milestones. So that's the first part. The second part to that is because this lead has then been accepted and we've been able to take this lead and push it into a job by connecting up those invoices. I've created a job in here already. What I can do is any information that's now pushed into the lead from an invoice point of view will now push into my job as well. So if typically as part of your process, you might start in the lead and get the deposit before you kick off the job, those invoices will now come through. All the information's linked, it's tracking. And of course, I can now come in if I need to inside the job and add more invoicing. You can also add line item invoicing, quote reductions, examples from this point as well. So if there's variations to the job, this of course is where we can add more in. But the benefit of the invoicing side of this, utilizing the smarts behind the items and the percentages, is Jobman will keep it up to date, which means it's very easy to know when you're up to 100%. This can also be used for retention. So in a lot of companies, especially from a commercial space, use the 90% at 3 key milestones, and then 10% has to be held until a year or 6 months or whatever your contract service is. So this is beautiful. You can set up your 3 invoices in Jobman for 30, 30, 30, get those paid. You can see that's visible. And then we can come into our tasks, add a retention payment task, put a date on it a year from now, and those will never get missed again. A year from now, that will pop up on the accounts agenda screen or the administration agenda screen. Go send final 10%, click a button, send it to your, submit it through to your accounting platform, get it out, go get it paid, job finished. Everybody's happy. So really, really good. And of course, we have reporting around the invoicing side. So I think I jumped a little bit there. I sort of jumped from purchase order to invoicing, but it made sense just so you can see the flow and how everything is connecting in. So the second part to that, of course, is now that we've got our job and we've pulled through, we want to start managing the resources to actually purchase order from. Now, for the intents of this webinar, I actually haven't utilized too much of the automation. So I just wanted to show you what would happen as it came through so that you can get a really good feel for where Jobman can come in and really benefit your service. So these are what we call, and what we were talking about before, as what we call quote pricing ranges. So they're not actually linked to a specific SKU, as in they're not They're not precise orderable materials. They're range orders, and good examples of things like that are things like handles for kitchens, or potentially adjustable legs, hinges, things that change job to job, and we use quote pricing. Or boards. Boards are a big one, utilizing board ranges as opposed to specific boards. However, Jobman can be used to link to direct actual items. So in this instance, inside that quote, when we built it the first time, rather than just a random material schedule, I actually linked it directly to the board I want to use for this job, which is the 16mm white melamine. It has an SKU, it has a supplier attached to it, it's ready to go. The advantage of that now is I can now utilize automated sourcing from Jobman. Now, there's two things to note, and I've done this intentionally. Anywhere where it's a schedule or a non-audible item, which is part of the catalog setup, which we covered in a previous webinar. So if you want to check that out, definitely check that out. Jobman won't find anything because they're not orderable services. It wants you to replace them with something that should actually be ordered. However, anywhere where it does know who it's for and where it's from, it will run that check. And it just so happens that I have 10 sheets of Laminex built into my system already in my inventory. So Jobman's doing its job immediately from a benefit basis and coming in, and it's finding those sheets and applying them to this job. And it will now pull them out of inventory. It'll leave them there with a task note, and it will have the job attached to it, which I'll show you in a second. So you can see that. So now we know we have 8 boards available. It's also picked up my soft close hinges from Blum, which have SKU links to them. It knows we don't have it in stock, so it's done the purchase order. Now, the question a lot of people ask me at this point is, why do I have to put my material schedules into my job? Why can't I just go out and purchase order and then come back in, receive it, and then link it out? And it's a good question. This comes back to the processes we were talking about originally. So by having your materials scheduled into your job, we've just established 3 very important links. The first link is we've given the software the ability now to auto source for you. So you can get that real perfect level of automation where we're looking for stock first. We're trying to pull from inventory first to maximize efficiency and reduce cost wastage. Second thing it's doing is it's linking up the pricing so that our job scheduling and job costing will now function properly, because we've now assigned estimated versus actual. And as we go through and start sourcing these materials, whether it be from inventory or purchase order them, Jobman can now start making that calculation. So we said there was going to be $10,000 worth of materials at cost, and we sold them out for, say, $12,500 in the quote. Now actually go source and pull them. What does that job cost look like? And it's doing that every time I update this. So it's a very clever system. It's telling you on the go. If we come back to the end of this job and we had to buy $15,000 worth of materials, that's the information we want you to have. So we want you to know that, you're $5,000 in the hole on this job, and then work out why and make sure it doesn't happen again. So that's the main 2 reasons. And the third reason is simply because the process is the same whether you do it all forwards or backwards. However, the benefit comes from forwards. So even if we allowed you to take your inventory, for example, and reverse engineer it into jobs, you would still be doing the same process. You'd have to come in here, find the material, find the inventory, allocate it in, and work backwards from the order, which you can still do. And I'm about to show you that now. However, there's no difference in those processes. There's no benefit. Whereas the benefit of bringing it forwards is the automation, and it's also the reduction in mistakes in handling. So you might go out and someone might have put on the PO that they actually want 18mm board. And then you've gone out and you've ordered 20 sheets of 18mm board and you've brought them into stock, and then they started cutting the job, and immediately someone's turned around and gone, this is a problem. Nothing's fitting. None of our slides work. None of our templating's come through from the CNC. What's the problem? Oh, we're using 18mm board. And suddenly, you're $2,000 or $3,000 in the hole from a mistake that could have been easily avoided by using Jobman's automation. So that's why we do it this way. It's not to say you can't do it the other way, but that's why it's there. Adding materials to this can be handled in a couple of ways. I've showed you one of the easiest ways, which is pulling it through from the quote services. To begin with, what most people will do, though, is they will probably come in and they'll start just adding their optimized bill of materials. And this brings us to our second point. Why optimize bill of materials? So Jobman's pretty smart. It's pretty good. Much like you can sit down and probably draw a manufacturing process with a client and work out pretty roughly what that's going to look like. We know it's going to be roughly 20 sheets of metal or wood, or it's going to be roughly 16 meters of fencing, et cetera, et cetera. You've all got the experience. You've been running your business for long enough to understand how that works. However, it's a bit of a ballpark guess most of the time. The truth for a job generally comes in at what we call the optimization or detailing process. For a lot of companies, that is the involvement of CAD programs. So that's where we come in and we actually draw the job physically, whether it be a kitchen or parts to a machine or manufacturing, whatever it is you produce. And that's the point at which the CAD program does its job. And its job is to optimize and nest materials. So rather than just roughly say it's going to be about 15 sheets, it will come in and say, well, I can nest these parts here and these parts here and these parts here, and I can actually get it done for you for 13 sheets. So that's the important first step in the process, is then optimizing the material, optimizing the hardware to make sure that you've got the right numbers. The great thing about Jobman is you can then go in and very quickly and easily enter that optimized list into our software platform. So now that you're actually giving it true numbers, and this will then again affect your job costing. So in our quote, we estimated 10,000 worth of materials at cost. However, when we actually went to optimize and nest and order it, we're able to get it down to $9,500. Fantastic. Everything's on track. The second part to that is because Jobman is controlling your catalog and your inventory pricing, this is how we can keep our constant pricing up to date very easily. And I know we covered this previously, but it's worth mentioning again. So when I'm looking at these material schedule prices, these are the actual prices we're up to right now in our software. So as those prices change and update, and suppliers will come back, Jobman gives you the opportunity to see where those errors have been happening. So for example, in my inventory right now, you can see that I've got some board and I've got some materials here. If I add these directly from inventory, Jobman's going to pull this and source directly from inventory, and it's going to lock that pricing. If I then go produce the purchase order bill and the supplier comes back to me and says they're no longer $223 and now $225, I now have a stepping point with which to say I can now update my catalog pricing to make sure all our quotes and orders going forward are correct pricing, which is extremely important. There's plenty of companies we've come across where they're still utilizing pricing and set up an accounting platform that doesn't de-link through inventory, and therefore they're just paying bills, and there's no accountability around individual items, and very quickly small increases, 5%, 4%, 2%, doesn't matter, will add up and end up costing your business a lot of money. So that's the first thing that we do. The second thing you'll notice here is we also have access to our catalog from our material list. So rather than purchase order directly from inventory, I can add it directly to purchase order, simply by not sourcing it from inventory. We have locations built in and sourcing. So once I create this material list, it's now added to the job. It's increased the job cost for this particular job cost for this job. Brain will get there in a minute. And it's applied that costing in. As I change any of these other materials, the same thing will happen. So as I change them from schedules to the actual materials I want to order, not a problem. It's the same process. I can either pull it from stock or I can add it to my source for purchase ordering. Ideally, the pure optimal level to use this software, however, would be to use, where applicable to your industry, our CAD integrations. So one of the great things we do offer, especially for a lot of the joinery CAD programs, is inside a lot of those programs, you will already have set up the SKUs from your suppliers for your most common used hardware. Things like hinges, handles, drawer runners, etc., are already built in there, adjustable legs. So when you bring that in and you can import that directly into Jobman, that optimized list is going to come in, the SKUs already match. This becomes a really seamless, fast process. And then all you have to do is add in your boards. And you're off and running really quickly. Now, this can be done at an individual level for each job. It can be done for each work order within a job. It can be broken down however you want to do it. Or if your company prefers to put everything into the main job, run the work orders and then purchase order from there, it'll still work the same way. You can wrap your job costing up at the end. It will read the parent and then look at the actual invoiced materials for each of the work orders. So not a problem at all. It will work both ways there for you. So now that I've done that, how to actually go ahead and purchase order. Now, I promised you there was two ways of doing it. I'm going to show you the best way first, and then I'm going to give you the other option for pulling that together. The most common way most people would use our software is what we call batch ordering. So batch ordering is Jobman is taking all of the materials from all of the jobs and work orders that have not yet been ordered and created them into this pending list, where I can just come in and apply a filter and see all the items that we're currently waiting on, all linked up to the correct jobs, ready to go. And we can handle multiple jobs. So you might have this material across 7 or 8 jobs, not a problem. You'll pull that information through, and then we can add them all together and place one purchase order for our suppliers, which makes a lot of sense. And this can be done every day or every couple of days, whatever your process might be. And it's nice and easy way of checking these materials is I can click on them, double check them, go directly and make sure any details are there correct. So if there's any changes you want to make at this level, this can be made, not a problem at all. So all of that information is available to you at the purchase order level. I can also add more stock. So I can come in here, and even though I add these purchase orders, and I'm going to show you an order I've actually ordered here with a supplier, if I wanted to, I could update this and I could add more items coming in. And what Jobman will do is it will allocate the materials where they're required for the jobs, but then bring the rest in under a non-allocation or warehouse item called stock inventory, essentially. And then the process continues. So yep, we've ordered in for the jobs we've got. I've also ordered an extra 10 of these bins. I'm now sitting on them in stock. Fantastic. Next time I run a job, if it wants to go looking for this SKU, it'll find this SKU, it'll see we've got 10 in stock. It'll pull them into the job rather than try and reorder them again. So that's the beauty of that automation. Now, once you've placed the purchase order, whether it be through the system in a batch or in a job, and I will show you a job purchase order in a moment. One of the benefits of this is now we have all the smarts you'd expect around a typical purchase order management system. So things like the ability to split the order. So if you have a large order and let's say I had 200 of these bins coming in, and the supplier was only able to fill 90 now and the other 110 in a couple of weeks, I could split this purchase order in 2, separate out 90 to come in now and 110 to come in 2 weeks. And it would break this PO into a 0.1 and 0.2, just like a work order. So you can see that. The advantage of that being, of course, it means they can be received separately. And it also means that when this stock comes in, I'm not waiting necessarily to schedule a job for items that I don't yet have. So I can, at this point, choose where I'm going to allocate that split and put those materials through for that list. So it's really important, especially when you do a lot of bulk ordering and you want to be able to split those orders down to make sure that, look, we've got 5 priority jobs over there. We're only getting 50 items out of our 200. We're going to allocate those 50 at this point directly to those jobs to make sure that when they're received, it's clear to the team that's what they're for. And then when the other 150 come in, we'll deal with those later and apply them to the other jobs. So that's a big benefit of the system. Now, when you receive orders in Jobman, and this can be done in 2 areas, I'm going to show you both areas. When this order is actually physically received into the system, what it does is it pulls this automatically into your inventory. Now, if it was assigned to a job, it's going to keep that job link. And again, this is why it's so important to make sure you get your materials into your job. This is where we're creating all of those important links. By putting those materials into that job, Jobman now knows what job they're for, they allocate it out, they can push forward. When I receive them, they automatically get received. They're available for that job, which is really important. So that's the first part. Second part is I can, of course, partially receive, partially receive any order. When I receive this, Jobman will automatically recognize that it's only been partially received. It'll say 5 have been received, and then we'll wait for the remaining 5 to be pulled in, which is very important and good. Nice, easy smarts. And it will do the same thing from the kiosk mode as well. So if they partially receive the orders, you don't need to worry about it. Say 5 are here, waiting for the other 5 to come later, not a problem. Now, this has now done 2 things. You'll notice it's updated the status automatically for you. So this has now been officially received into inventory. The second thing is because this has been completely received and this order is now fulfilled, you can now create an invoice. So this is our second area where the invoicing and purchase order links are created in our software, and that's the ability to create bills from received orders. And this is one advantage of splitting rather than partially receiving, especially if there's quite a delay between the 2 items. It's definitely beneficial to split the order because you can fully receive one order and create the invoice bill, especially if you're coming towards the end of the month. It's a common question we get. hey, this order is going to be partially received, but the accounts are going to want it by end of month. How do we achieve that? No problem. Split the purchase order, break it into two, have 5 for now, 5 for later. Once that first part is received, we can now create the invoice, push forward. Really important. Now this has been done, however, Jobman's automatically done a heap of smarts in the background for you. First thing it's done is it's brought them into my warehouse and it's allocated the ones I needed for the job. So I now have some stock available, as in not allocated to jobs. And this again can be visible from your kiosk mode if you want it, so the team can be aware when they're looking at these bins and they look at all and they see, 5 of this type and 10 of this type sitting here. They know that there isn't actually 20 sitting there because 15 of them have been allocated out to jobs. Only 5 are actually available to use. So that's the first point to the transparency. It saves a lot of mistakes, saves a lot of issues, a lot of things, people grabbing without necessarily being able to grab them. So it keeps your inventory very clean and up to date. The second benefit to that is once you get the system up and running, there should be very little need to do stock taking in the future. This is a live, up-to-date system. So orders are being placed against jobs plus stock. Stock's coming into your inventory. Stock's being allocated to jobs. Those items are then being used. Everything should be a nice, clean system. And if a few mistakes happen here and there, the team can create a job alert, send you through that information. You can update these numbers. This is a live system. And then as people come in and create more jobs and then go sourcing, they'll pick up the inventory items first and the purchase order and so on and so forth. So it becomes a really clean, good management system. Now, I know this question is going to come up, so I'm going to answer it now rather than wait till the end. Currently, there isn't a way of bulk importing your inventory into the system. So you can't just grab a CSV and bring it straight in. There might be something we look at in the future, but currently we don't have that. And the primary reason being is all of these links we're talking about today are very important. So the reason why we create inventory items or inventory management from our catalog, so I should come in here and select this catalog item here, and then I tell the system how many I have. The reason why we do that is because now that's now linked in the system. So it has something to draw pricing from. It has somewhere where it can establish that we've added those raw materials to jobs. When they get added, it can create sourcing, et cetera, and so forth. So yes, like most inventory management systems, the first time you set up the inventory side of this, it's going to be a little bit of data entry. It's not massive. And to be honest, as you saw then, it's a digital platform that works on your phone or your tablet. You grab a tablet, walk out to the warehouse, and once you've got your catalog items, and you can literally fill out your inventory live, and within a day, the system's working. You know what I mean? You can start sourcing materials and bringing that information in. So really easy to use. And of course, the major benefit long-term is the reduction of mistakes, but also the fact that it's going to make things a lot cleaner and easier. And you should never really have to do a stock take again. Maybe some spot checks here and there just to make sure everything is good. But this information is live. And we have a purchase stock report in our system that keeps live up to date every day. So you can jump in there June 29 or 30 or 28, whenever you generally do it, run those numbers, and it should tell you what's on the ground. This show remove functionality is here to take care of the last part of that process, which I want to show you now. So it's all fantastic. We've got our jobs. We've pulled our raw materials in. We can optimize them and override that list either by import or manually or pull it through from the quote. There's lots of ways of achieving that without having to sit there and enter them for every job. We've then purchase ordered or sourced from inventory. We've allocated the materials to the job. The job now is in a position where we can use those materials and manufacture. So the last part of the process to keep our numbers up to date, and something certainly that not many companies in the world who don't access a platform like this would have availability to, and that's the ability then now to pick list those items out to round out the process. So what I mean by that is because we've received the items and they're sitting in our warehouse, technically Jobman wants to do its best for you and wants to say, well, that stock is allocated to a job, but it's not yet out of the warehouse. So if we had to run a definitive number of how much we're sitting on today, I need to include those materials because they're not yet used. They're not out the door. They're not, that value should not deduct from my warehouse. So the last part to that is we actually want to tell Jobman, hey, we have actually used them. They're gone. The job's out the door. Please detract that information from my inventory report. And we do that via the pick list. And again, this is accessible by role in the kiosk as well. So if you prefer your team handle this as they do it, not a problem. You can see here that these two items, one has come in now from the purchase order. It's been received. So these 5 are available and now ready to be picked for this job. And these were the 2 boards that we pulled out. Now, again, you can see the smarts here. The job needed 1.764 boards. Jobman is smart enough to know that you can't pull out 1.76 boards. You need to grab 2 sheets and then cut them and then use them for this job. And the team can come in here now, and you can either do this at a high level, so you can do this at an office level management role if you want to. If that's how your company process works, you prefer one person to be in charge of this full process, not a problem. Or we can give them access via kiosk mode, and as the team actually uses this hardware or these board or raw materials, they'll actually pull them out, and then it'll keep up to date all the time. Now, part of the reason why people choose not to have the kiosk members do it, and it's worth mentioning, is because technically speaking, if I'm on the floor and I'm manufacturing again, and I've pulled and cut these boards and they're currently being assembled, they're not technically out my door. So that means, heaven forbid, if anything was to happen to your warehouse, you need to make an insurance claim, you would actually want those numbers physically assigned to your stock inventory report so that when you present it to your insurer, excuse me, you have a very accurate number of what is actually sitting in your warehouse right now. So that's one reason why you might not do it. Most companies look at it in this sense. The automation of having the team get involved and do this far outweighs the minor number benefit there. So they'll have the team do it, so this process is looping. Now, by doing that, they're now being removed from my inventory properly. So they're no longer available on that list. They can't be seen, they can't be touched, they can't be picked, they can't be used. But most importantly, it's round out the finality of that process, which is it's now removed from my inventory numbers and my jobs are clean. Everything keeps moving forward. And that's as easy as it is. I know it's a bit of a scary area for a lot of people when they first start looking for an inventory management system. They're like, oh, so a lot of things going on here. How do I best use this? What are some of the best practices? How can I really get the best benefit out of it? And honestly, this is an amazing system. I've been involved in warehousing for a very long time before I started in software solutions. And I can tell you that this far outweighs many of the systems I've seen in the past, especially the automatic sourcing. That's the big one. And it's the main reason why we show you this flow forwards. It's very important that you see that so that you get that really good understanding of why. Now, I promised you there was a second way of doing this. And the second way for a lot of companies is they like to order directly from a job. So rather than do batch ordering for multiple jobs at one time or include stock, a lot of people do like to come in and say, well, the way we work is we run 10 jobs a week and each job is individually purchase ordered and brought in so that it can be managed separately and singularly, and we're not too interested in the inventory side, or if you are, it's for some very basic componentry. It's not a problem. Inside the actual job or work order itself, you can directly create a purchase order. All you need to do is link it to the available supplier that you're going to order from. So obviously each purchase order has to be created separately because they're from different suppliers, and you simply tick include pending items, and it will look for anything in that list that has not yet been ordered or sourced from stock. It'll create it just for this job, produce this PO, follow the process again, shoot it out to your supplier, and off you go. Now, it's important to note here that we've got a couple of really good benefits around our ordering system. Obviously, we have emailing ordering, which is good. We generate PDFs. Because it's an emailing client, there's a lot of accountability in the software there for orders being when they're ordered, who they're ordered by, etc. When the suppliers return, that comes back to the contact supplier email area. So there's a lot of benefit there. For our base supplier integrations, such as Laminex, we do have CSV exporting, which allows you to export this information into a particular CSV, suck it directly into your online ordering portal. 3 seconds, you've managed your ordering. And then, of course, the big news that I know a lot of you are aware of is our first live API-driven full supplier integration with Hafele is now out and happening. So if you buy a lot through Hafele and this is something that interests you, we highly recommend you get in touch because this is a huge module add-on. It's not expensive, but for a lot of companies, that's a massive time saving. And the biggest benefit to the API integration is the orders become live. So you hit a button, this order will go directly to Hafely. It's linked to your organizational account, so it has your pricing. And a few moments later, you'll get a return from the Hafely API. It'll pre-fill a lot of really important information for you, things such as estimated delivery dates. It'll put through and update any of those requirements and availability. But the most important thing it does is it gives you a live feedback for your pricing. So it will automatically update the purchase order for you. Fantastic. So now your purchase orders line up, easy, hit create bill, send that off to MyObl Xero, get that paid. Beautiful streamlined process, really simple one-touch ordering. The other thing there, though, is it'll create a history log for that event. So if there are some pricing changes or updates, you now have an opportunity to jump back into your catalog, make those handful of updates, and your pricing's ready to go moving forward. Hafely is the first. We expect plenty more to come on board, and we're in discussions with plenty of companies at the moment. And we expect they're going to start coming on board very fast. So it's a huge win, not just for our clients, but also our suppliers. And I think it's one of the first of its kind in the world when ERP is linked up directly to a supplier for the benefit of their clients. As we move through those integrations, we will also be looking to expand into other major industries where companies have API developed ordering systems as well. This is a huge step forward and a massive benefit to the software. But it is worth noting right now, it is also still one of the best purchase ordering platforms that I've seen on the market. It's really going to improve your processes. And definitely one of the big ones will be the fact that it's going to reduce a lot of mistakes. And that, as many people would know, is one of the crux hurdle profit eaters in manufacturing. You know, there's no accountability between the quote coming into the job. Therefore, it just takes one human error to accidentally enter the wrong SKU, and off you go. You know, and suddenly instead of a $22 a square meter veneer, you've just ordered a $220 hardwood or something along those lines. And that's big money when we're talking over manufacturing. So this is one of the biggest return on investment areas for the software. There's a lot of other cool, really functionality around this, and we'll definitely be diving into more of that in the future. Things like required by dates, so that you can preset or pre-order in the future for when you actually want these materials to be sourced. Are big ones. There's a lot of automation around the CAD imports that are really powerful, that'll really streamline this process. But even just at a basic level, being able to come in, take your job, add your materials in, place your purchase orders. You've now got visibility. You've got accountability. This is a big one, you know, being able to see what's been ordered, where, by whom, what statuses it's in, you know, what jobs they're all linked to, etc. And then, of course, create those bills to push out to your suppliers to gain that, save all that double handling as well. And most importantly, create a really important cross-reference check for your pricing, because I fully know this is one of the big areas where a lot of companies, you know, no one's sitting there managing a 40 or 50,000 item Excel spreadsheet all the time that the pricing is coming through. And if they are, it's a lot of effort and handling to keep that up to date, a lot of hours being chewed up. Whereas with this system, it's really clear, it's really easy. Just go in, quickly update those SKUs, or if there's a mass export as well, this is one of the other big benefits. You know, if you've had a recent price increase from a supplier, export your catalog by that supplier, increase the price, suck it back in. 3 minutes later, your catalog is up to date. The foundation of the pricing, you know, one of the biggest pricing areas of manufacturing is moving forward correctly, which is really good. All right, how do you receive a service? It's a good question, Jess. So services are not inventory. So you don't technically receive them. The process there is the ability to be able to assign them to a job so that our job costing is covered, and then to be able to purchase order them out. But typically, services are things you don't have, if that kind of makes sense. Or service might be a delivery charge, or you might project manage contract installing, for example, or electrical work. So it's not something you actually physically receive into your warehouse. The main reason we have that link there is so that it makes sense for our job costing. So if you typically, for example, let's say you use contract installers and you quote 10 hours of install for this job, and you produce that as part of a service for your quote, it pulls into the job, it now has a value. And it will say, let's say your contract installers charge out at $150 and you charge clients $200, for example. So that would be 10 hours at $150. It's going to come back and say, no problems. It's $1,150 or $1,150 worth of costing for services. This now, if you produce that purchase order and your contract installer comes back and said, actually, it took 15 hours, it's going to be an $18,000 invoice. That's what that information is there for in Jobman. So you can immediately say, hey, work was $7,000 down on this. Maybe we need to be careful, change our processes in the future to make sure that that doesn't happen again, or we need to find out why that took so long, and that's the beauty of Jobman. It's going to impact your job costing. This is the information you're now going to be able to see, which is definitely the point. Returning materials to stock if they don't get used on a job. Awesome question. Not a problem. Jobman is very capable of handling that. So unfortunately, it's one thing you can't do from the kiosk. We've kind of done that intentionally. We don't really want kiosk members to be able to influence stock levels, and it's very important. Why? It's not that we don't trust people. It's simply that if something goes walking out the back of your door, we just have no way of managing that. It's not to say Jobman's going to stop that happening, but at least where they can't go in, walking out the back of the door, modify the stock numbers, off they go. No one's none the wiser. So it's very important that has to be done at office use level management. However, a typical process that a lot of clients have used with our software is they build what's called a job alert, and that job alert they'll entitle return stock. And in fact, a lot of people have too. They have return stock and they have more stock. So we did not allow enough, or a mistake was made. The staff member you can develop a process with your team where if they have to return something back in from the job, what they'll do is they'll pick list. Let's say it's four items on the pick list, and they use 3. So they'll pick list the 3. So that's important to make sure that whole process is rounded out. And then they'll say the 4th one we don't need. So you can go back into your inventory and get them just to send you the SKU or material or however your company operates. And then you can just add that back in. And now that one item will be sitting there available for stock, ready to go. Something we have considered for the future is maybe the ability for them to do that from the pick list as an all-in-one process. Right now it's a 2-step process. Not too stressful, but yeah, no, very easy. And it is worth noting that you can put partial sheets back. Now, obviously, most companies wouldn't put those back in if there's small amounts, but especially for large, expensive sheets of metal or veneers, it might be worth it. You might only use 1/4 of a board. Jobman can handle that. So long as you put the material, you add it to your inventory, you choose the catalog item, and then you change the dimensions, you'll now be able to see that partial board in your inventory. The next time you go sourcing for a job, you'll be able to see that there. And if you want to, let's say the job was, in this case, 1.7 boards, and I know I've got 3/4 of a board left, as long as those measurements make sense, I can use that, which is very important, especially for high-end materials. Very good. How to record, track stock discrepancies and stock adjustments. All of the adjustments made in the system are activity logged. Currently, there's no report about the activity logging, although I believe that is something we could definitely look at in the future. The idea is that the system should be fairly digitally up to date. So in my experience, when operating with system updates, especially like accounting softwares and that, they sort of give you a title to that massive change so that you can sort of record that change. The idea behind the system is that it should be very minimal. It's not something we want you to have to project manage all the time. The system is designed to be very clean. So we purchase order, we receive, we use, it gets pick listed out. We can bring in stock, we can source from it. It should be a very clean system. And because that information is transparent against the team, it should definitely, absolutely not require too much in an adjustment base. So you should only be ever making minor adjustments in the platform. And you can put those notes there. So the activity log will come through and say you've updated or changed these quantities, and then maybe you could put a note next to it for an internal process. It is something we definitely consider in the future being able to report around that as well. I understand fully why you would want to see that report. But yeah, every change made, in fact, it automatically even logs price changes. So one of the good things about the system is you can see historic updated price changes in the platform as well, which is really good. How to make BOM products for stock. Bill of material products for stock. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, I sort of understand material products for stock. If I am understanding correctly, what you sort of want to do is you want to take a product, put a bill of materials in it, and then run inventory of that stock. Currently, that isn't available. It is something we've definitely looked at. It's a very complicated area for software to manage. There are some platforms out there I've seen that do it quite well, but they tend to be about $250,000 a year. It's just one of those things where it's like, sounds really good in theory, very complicated to do because it's the requirement of assemblies and sub-assemblies. What we are looking at in the future, though, is to produce a module called deliverables. I think this will be very exciting for a lot of clients, and that will be the ability to take a product with internalized materials and then both obviously source the materials for manufacturing, but then be able to say I have X number of those products available for stock, so to speak. So yeah, that is definitely a future plan, not available at the moment. Very, very complicated, as you can imagine. How do you, if I pull one thing from stock, how do you tell a system that one thing has a lot of other things inside it? What if you don't have all the materials to make it? You only have part of the materials to make it. How would you like the system to respond? Very, very, very complicated stuff. And that's why programs that tend to deal with this sort of stuff tend to be extremely expensive. Obviously, we don't ever want to make Jobman that crazy. So we are looking at a module that should be able to handle that for part assemblies through. I don't have an ETA around that. It's unlikely that work will start much sooner than the end of this year. We have a lot on our development list at the moment. However, it will be very exciting, and it will also include some ability to track those products through systems. So I know it's a big one for a lot of people. They want to be able to quote, build products, have that quote come in, automatically source the materials to manufacture and produce them when stock levels get low, create an internal job and refresh up. So absolutely. On the future works, we only start cutting board once we have all board, but not hardware in stock. Can Jobman auto update a task received and move on to the next task? Thanks, Peter. Great question. Unfortunately, no, it can't auto update because there's no event link. Like there's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no actually that is the word I'm looking for. There's no event that happens from a receivable that is linked to a job or task, so to speak, because operations not linked to that. So there is still that process that you will require in your business. However, the good thing about utilizing this now is you'll have that ability to break those things down because you can see it from office management level that the items are being received. You can then schedule the cutting. And that's the point to Jobman, is to make that process a lot easier, a lot cleaner, and have all the information in one place rather than you have to go down, try and work out what's been received, wander around, find where things are, and then come back and go, okay, well, which jobs can we now handle? Was that allocated for that? Was that allocated? It can get quite a messy process. Now it'll become nice and clean. Those resources are inside those jobs, and absolutely, we fully understand they'll be split between hardware and board materials. You'll be able to go in, you can see when they've ordered, you can see when they've been received. That link is on the jobs as well. So then once those purchase orders are received, you can come in and then set up the task scheduling for cutting. That is not to say that is not something we couldn't handle. We have already started building some notification services in the software, and I think that would be a good one. It's something certainly a few people ask for. Can we have something around like a notification when something is received relevant to a job? We can have a pop-up or a dashboard notification. And definitely, again, I think that is something we certainly could handle in the future. Right now, the process is excellent, albeit a little manual, but certainly definitely better than most processes I've seen in manufacturing. It will really help steady the flow and the ship there. And one of the biggest benefits I actually see to it is the ability to see and manage partial deliveries. This seems to be the big one that causes manufacturing a lot of headaches. I've got 10 jobs on, I need 200 items. I've ordered 200 items. They're only going to deliver 80. At some point, someone needs to make that decision. That's part of the reason we also can't directly auto update it at the moment, is because someone has to go in and make that decision. Where are we going to allocate those 80 as the priority jobs to get that done? And it's not usually normal, simple numbers like I use 80 and 100. It's normally weird stuff like I need 17 for that, 13 for that, 12 for this. So yeah, Jobman is very good at handling that for you. Excuse me, by giving you that process involvement. Does Jobman have minimum stock levels so when batch ordering is done, a signature can be ordered updated? Simple answer is currently no. Long answer is absolutely yes, it will. We've built the framework. It's all sitting there. We're just working out how the best way to implement that in the software is to make sure that there are no extraneous use factors when that comes in, because again, it's one of those things from a programming point of view that's not actually complicated to make, but it sounds really easy to do. However, it can cause some massive headaches. For example, let's say you have a minimum quantity order of 10 or 100, and person A goes in, creates a job, and puts in, I need 10 of these boards. Jobman looks at it and goes, okay, cool, no worries, I'll put it through, adds it in, and then goes, oh, actually, we need 100, adds 100 to stock. They go to hit the order button and someone says, hold on, I'm also going to put something in for that batch job. So, okay, no worries. They go and they add it. Same thing happens again. Now we had 200. So we just have to be really careful, make sure we do it properly. But absolutely, I think you're right. Where we'd like that to happen is to come into the batch ordering side. So it's sort of sitting there and it wouldn't matter how many people place in. The framework's there. It will definitely happen. Don't have an ETA, but 100% that we certainly intend to get that into the software. So cheers for that, Peter. No, 100% that will happen. How does returning materials back to stock affect the costing of the job if it was from a purchase order? Great question. It doesn't. So our consideration when looking at that information was always, what's the best way of handling that from a job cost point of view? Now, from our point of view, realistically speaking, the stuff up has already happened. So someone has failed in their process, whether that process happened when they were optimizing the materials, they didn't utilize the checks properly, whatever happened, we've ordered too much. So from a job cost point of view, we want that allocated. We want you to know a mistake has been made. It's very important that that information is live and that you can see that mistake, because then you can improve processes to make sure that mistake happens again. If we allow that mistake to be sort of covered up or hidden or just sort of swept under the rug, nothing improves. There's no return there. So what we do is we say, yep, no, look, we ordered too much. The job costing's been allocated. You've gone a little bit over here. However, what will happen is it sort of works itself out in the wash in that you now have some inventory. The next job that comes in, you have the ability to use that inventory. So it will reduce the costing element, especially if there has been a price change as well. It's very important between the first time you order and the second time you order. So it will sort of work its way out in the wash, but it will also do what you want it to do, which is highlight errors or mistakes. Of course, they're not always your mistakes or errors. For your company, it could be supplier problems, for example. They over-deliver or something along those lines, and then you come up with those agreements. That's fine. We sort of get it. But no, at the moment, it definitely won't affect your job costing, and it's that is intentional. Gates made of multiple components make up 10 of the few jobs, not yet in the books. Absolutely, yeah. No, I'm fairly certain with you there, Jess. Yep, deliverables and products will be a future concern. Like I said, it's an extremely complicated thing to be able to handle. Like I said, because we're not just now looking at one thing, we're looking at two things. It's easy to pull a product through. I mean, keep in mind, one of the smarts about the system is you can build those products out of those materials, and every time you create that gate in a quote, it's going to come into the job. It's going to look for those materials. You can find those materials and pull those materials, then use them, manufacture, and move on. But I understand a lot of companies also do want to be able to then say, well, hey, I've got enough materials. Let's go make 10 in advance because we know we're going to sell 10 for the next month. So yeah, no, absolutely. It is something we'll look at in the future. Not a priority for us right now. Like I said, big dollars for software companies that can handle that. So, but yeah, no, definitely deliverables will be coming in, which is good. How does Jobman handle when a purchase order is invoiced over two or more supplier invoices, or purchase order is invoiced in two purchase orders invoiced in one invoice? Okay, that's a really good question. So the first thing is the splitting of a purchase order to handle over two or more supplier invoices. That is part of the reason we have that in there. So you take our original purchase order and you would split it. When splitting it, Jobman gives you the opportunity to choose the quantities. So if, for example, the supplier sent you those two invoices, you can simply line them up and say, no problems, we'll split it out. And it becomes this purchase order and this purchase order. They then become individualized. And the advantage of that means twofold. One, they can both be individually received. But two, when creating the bills, now we can create two separate bills with two separate references, all back into the same PO. As to doing it the other way around, that's a bit more complicated. So if your supplier invoices multiple purchase orders to that invoicing, I think the only real well the system will handle that in any particular fashion right now would be to create the bill off the one purchase order and then use the same reference on the second. It's important to note that the bill payment side is a little bit separate to the purchase order. It's not as refined as invoicing. So from an invoicing point of view, we're very stressed when quotes don't line up with invoices because that's the job value. When it comes to purchase orders, the fact that you've got your purchase orders in the system is the important part. You've got transparency, reference points, digital automation, etc. So you can see all that information. When it actually comes to the bill side handle of things, that's less stressful for us. Obviously, you want them to sort of line up because it makes a lot of sense from a costing point of view, but we intentionally separate some of that information just so it doesn't become too overly complex. We've got to let the accounting software do something. So yeah, part one, you can definitely handle. Part two, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely you could utilize the same reference on two POs. So that would be fine. That would then cover that bill run. It just wouldn't line up as quietly as you would think. Just trying to think if you could create two bills. No. But no, currently, so part one, 100% yes, part two, probably not. But good question. You mentioned that kiosk users can't check items not used back into stock. They can, however, pull another item from stock for, say, a recut. So no, I should have been a little bit clearer about that. So what they can and can't do is they can come in and they can view. You can give them permission to view inventory. So they can look at the inventory and they can say, right, we've got 10 boards. 2 boards are allocated to this job, 2 boards are allocated to this job, 2 boards are allocated to this job, 4 boards are available. That's it. That's the only level to which they can interact with your inventory directly. And that's intentional. So they can't come in and go, hey, I need 4 boards to make a bench for my kitchen barbecue this weekend. I'll take those 4 boards out and then modify your inventory, and now that's gone. So they can't do that. That's the one thing they can't do, which is very important. What they can do, though, is they can see that. So if they make a stuff up and they're working on job number 1, which needed 2 boards, and they suddenly go, oh, man, I've stuffed up, or there's damage or whatever's gone wrong, they can see the inventory, which means they can come back to you and say, hey, these 2 boards are damaged. I need to use 2 of the boards from your stock. So that via a job alert for potential, they could come in and you could modify that stock to remove those 2 boards. So that's part 1, visibility. Part 2 is the pick list. Now, the pick list is their only way of interacting with inventory management, which is they can say, I've used these items. They're gone. Please remove them from stock. So they can't physically update your stock, but you have sort of limited them into an area where they can still do their job, which is use items, remove from stock. So you're not having to manage that. What that does mean is if they need to do a recut, and they say, let's say the best process used for Jobman here would be to come in, create a job alert, say, hey, I've stuffed up those 2 boards. Let's imagine none are in stock. And they send you through a job alert to say we've stuffed up. You can then create a work order for that job, and it can have a 3-task process. And this is very common use of the job alerts. And that is step 1, order a couple more boards to cover that job. Step 2, recut. And step 3, close out that work order. The advantage of doing it that way, excuse me, is twofold. 1, it's now going to impact your job costing for the job, so we can see what the stuff up has cost in reality. But 2, it does mean now, yes, you've ordered 2 new boards in, they're allocated to that work order, so they have that job number with work order on the end of it. They can now pick list those 2 items. So that's how they interact. So technically, yes, they do interact with your inventory via the pick list. However, we don't allow them to directly interact with it, so nothing goes walkabouts.